Hi guys, today I'll talk about a story I read in an article where a woman in her 40s is complaining about the life that she has lived. She's single and alone, obviously unhappy, with no children and an ex-husband who she broke up with long ago. The story began when she first met this wonderful man when she was young. She got married to the guy, and things went smoothly for a time since he treated her well and really loved her. However, after that, she began to earn more money. She began to advance considerably in her career, and all of a sudden, the person she had been getting along with wasn't as appealing to her. For her, he wasn't making enough money. His low-paying job wasn't suitable for her anymore. His choice of vehicle was no longer appropriate for her since, as I've already stated, prestige is crucial when it comes to women. Women desire a man that they can look up to rather than down on. Even though he was kind to her and adored her, she eventually broke up with him. Because she was in her prime at age 20, she decides to break up with the guy and believes she can handle things better. These days, with the number of women who spend their peak years in their 20s, situations like this won't occur frequently. While maintaining the greatest appearance of their life, they are working hard to further their careers. For them, this is the moment when they can most easily find husbands and boyfriends. I left the love of my life because I could do better, reads the title of the piece. I'm 42 years old, childless and alone. Laughing and dancing with my fiancé and our engagement party, I thought I would truly explode with pleasure. The article goes on to describe the engagement celebration. I knew when I first saw Matthew that he was the one I would spend the rest of my life with. Many women first believe so, and they become overwhelmed by the emotions of the wedding since they are all essentially going to be the focus of attention as the bride. He was my perfect match. We had planned out our entire future together since we were so hopelessly in love. We would have a lovely wedding ceremony first, then say goodbye to the borrowed home, and then welcome the kids. My naive 19-year-old self thought everything was so simple. I was the girl who had it all, so why am I alone, childless, and haunted by the realization that I had thrown everything away 20 years later? The only real opportunity for happiness I've ever had. I left my darling, dedicated, and faithful Matthew in 1989, 8 years after the magnificent engagement party, confident that I would find a better, more interesting, and meaningful life elsewhere. I'm 42 years old now and have everything a successful person could want: a lucrative profession, a home in fashionable Notting Hill, and financial stability. My father cautioned me not to waste this love, but I was confident that Mr. Perfect was just around the corner. Everyone does. How many guys have experienced this? A girl whom he treated like gold deserted him. Being older, alone, and lonely, she complains and whines and believes that men don't want to settle down, become engaged, and settle with the 30 or 40-year-old. She believed she could find a replacement the next day. This is more common than you all know. It's called karma. You know, I never did meet another man who offered all Matthew did, who understood me and loved me like he did, she continues. Someone who was both my lover and greatest friend. I find it painful to see friends now with their kids all about them since I know I will probably never have my own family. When Matthew and I first discussed having kids, we even spoke about the names we would pick. I find it hard to imagine that I rejected such joy. Instead, I find myself back on the singles market hunting for the exact thing I just threw away without giving it a second thought. Even though I can't get Matthew back, hearing about his life and how satisfied he is 15 years after I stopped our relationship aches. He has a happy marriage. Well done, Matthew, for getting the heck going. You'll see in this article that she does these things in an effort to prevent him from moving on. She is a terribly self-centered woman, to be honest. It's incredible how many individuals will be evaluating their lives and relationships at this time of year and wondering if the grass is greener on the other side. Many people confuse contentment with boredom and fail to appreciate the positive aspects of their lives. I would implore people who are considering leaving such fortune to reconsider how different my life would be today if I had just listened to Matthew in 1987 when he begged me not to leave him with tears streaming down his face. I was sobbing as well, and it tormented me to see the guy I loved crumble in front of me. But I remained firm. The last thing you might want to do if a lady breaks up with you is sob in her presence. The entire waterworks thing is going to be really attractive if you basically glance at a man and walk away, but many people have established that stereotype. She then shares the story of how they met and what happened to their relationship. We first spoke while we were students at the same Essex high school. They're from England. I was 17 and preparing for my A-levels in 1987, and we began dating soon before Christmas. At that point, he had finished school and was employed as a motorbike courier, and both of our families were in favor of the relationship. We quickly started to fall in love. Although Matthew was romantic, he was also exceedingly realistic, which would ultimately irritate me in the future. He gave me a leather jacket and a pair of heated tights for Christmas. We had been dating for less than a month when he proposed 2 weeks later. As I was driving in my clubman car when he yelled at me to halt, I braked in the middle of traffic because I was afraid something was amiss, and we both leaped out. He kneeled down in the middle of the road and shouted, "I love you, Karen," disregarding the other vehicle's honking horns. "Make a commitment to marrying me someday," he added. I chuckled and nodded, delighted that he shared my sentiments. Over a special supper in the summer of 1989, Matthew properly proposed with a diamond solitaire ring. We had our engagement party at the tiny house we were renting at the time for 40 friends and family members. This is where it starts to get good. So they basically move into a small home and furnished it with what they could buy, borrow, and steal. They had a good time at the start as they moved into this new adult life. They didn't make that much money first, but as time went by, their financial situation got better where they could dine out once a week and spend on things they liked. She was working at a magazine in a junior role while he was fixing tires and exhausts in cars. After some time, the housing market crashed, and that increased their mortgage payments exponentially. It initially brought them closer, but as time went by, the woman started rising in her career, making much more money than him as he kept moving from one dead-end job to the other. I say this again and again. Guys love and respect their women irrespective of their bank accounts. Women, on the other hand, say that it doesn't matter to them, but when their man makes less money than them, they start losing respect for them. It's just what it is, no matter how much women deny this. Then she says she started getting embarrassed by him because he couldn't afford to pay the bills or drive a nice car, while all their friends had successful partners who were raising their standards of living and welcoming children into their successful lives. It really didn't matter to her that he was probably going through a bad time, as most of us usually do at some point in our lives. It didn't matter to her how much he loved her, cared for her, and wanted her. She only saw that he wasn't doing well enough financially, so she started thinking that maybe the grass really is greener on the other side. She says that she basically stopped seeing him as an equal. She stopped recognizing all the qualities that made her fall in love with him. He eventually joined the police and slowly got back on track. But then, she says, since they were both so busy with their jobs, they hardly had any time for each other. Things were dark in the bedroom, and the relationship wasn't what it was. Then one day, she just told him she was leaving him. She says they talked for hours, and he cried and asked her to not go. Her father warned her at that time to carefully think about what she was doing, but she was too stubborn to realize what she was throwing away. She was convinced there was a Mr. Perfect waiting for her around the corner, since she was doing so well in her career and was still young at that time and didn't have any children to stop her from completely moving to a different life. She moved to a rented flat nearby and embraced her single life as a magazine editor. She's busy in her career and has a great social life where she gets to enjoy these fancy dinner parties, but she can't keep the ex-husband out of her mind and keeps checking up on him to see how he's doing. Soon enough, he meets this girl called Sarah, and they start getting serious. She keeps calling him to ask for his advice or to basically check up on him and see how he's doing, because they still decided to remain friends, which I think was a bad move, especially for the guy. Guys, if you break up with a girl, just rip the band-aid off and move on. Nothing good's going to come out of it if you try to stay in touch with her. So she keeps contacting him, and one day he picks up the phone and tells her to never call him again, but he needs to be 100% with Sarah. She lashed out at him over the phone after this, and soon after he stopped picking up her calls, and that was the last she heard from him then. She then met Richard, a rock star, and got engaged within a year. They moved to another area, and she says she found happiness and excitement with him touring the country for concerts as she thrived as a national editor. However, she could never take out her ex from her thoughts and mind. She says she kept bringing him into conversations and thought that he was someone who truly understood and loved her more than anyone else. She realized what her father had warned her about when she was stubbornly breaking up with him. Eventually, Richard, her current partner, got a girl pregnant and moved out. She was devastated, of course. She goes on to say that she didn't really have any serious relationship after that, but she kept checking on Matthew to see how he was doing and found out he eventually married some girl he was dating and now lives a very happy life. She wants to convey the following message to all the ladies who are considering ending their relationships. As I did, I would advise against mistaking contentment for unhappiness. You can end up regretting your decision for the rest of your life. So should we feel sorry for her? I don't, since I've spent my entire life knowing ladies like her. I've heard similar tales, and as you may be aware, many of us were guys in our 20s who had wonderful girlfriends, but they rejected us, and now they're in their 30s and 40s and unhappy because they're all by themselves. So guys, the lesson here for men is to not ignore the natural rules of life and understand how women think. If you make less money than her, chances are that she's going to stop having respect for you. So do what you will, but work harder than ever and always be someone she can look up to. For the ladies, the lesson is that guys really do love you regardless of how much more or less money you make. They like you for you, not for financial comfort or anything like that. So when you're breaking up with someone because of this, know that they can, in the future, earn more than you think, and might even realize how you change your level of respect for them based on the size of their wallet. Also, if you have a guy who's a friend and a lover, trust me, it won't get any better than this. Money comes and money goes, but what you guys have that lasts a lifetime. Be sure to make the right choice. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and please if you have anything to mention, just drop your message in the comments section.